Our card is on the way. Who will it be today? There's a name on here. And the name is Terry Mann. She's in the kitchen already. Terry Mann, I drew your card, honey. She's full of cucumber juice? Is that what you said? You're cutting cucumbers. Today's Salad Sunday, so Terry's in the kitchen because she is the team leader of our hospitality team and a great supporter of me and lover of me and Soul Center, and I appreciate you. So now you get to read your card and let everybody know what you think.
Okay.
All right. Take a deep breath.
Why Spiritual Soul Center? Connection to like-minded people, to be inspired and motivated. What have you discovered here? Connection, joy, love, inspiration. It feels like the original unity. How does it feel here, or how are you hoping it will feel? It feels like I just walked into my grandmother's house. And a big hug. How will you enrich this space in our community? I will continue to serve with my time, treasure, and talent.
Amen. So let's take a minute as we start and continue, I guess, and take a deep breath in and let's come into this exact moment in time. There's all sorts of things that are about to happen this afternoon. I've already talked to people about the event at the CAM, there's Family Day, and of course there's football, and there's all sorts of things happening later. But right now, we have this moment. We have this one moment connected to the next. And so we can give ourselves the gift of this moment by bringing our full attention right here, right now. To be still, to breathe in, and to breathe out, and to know that there is no other place that our life is lived except in this exact moment now. We can invite in peace and ease. We can invite in complete stillness. Even as we hear the rumblings and the workings of the kitchen and the kids, we can know that that too is part of this moment. How life is lived by simply being aware and staying in this moment now. So for all of those over the world who are suffering, all of those who are in pain and grief, maybe it's ourselves, who are in war, who are in struggle and strife, let's know for them what they might not know for themselves, is that by taking a moment and being still, that this too, this kind and precious moment is available to them as well. The place of strength, this place of hope, the place of possibility. And for that, we are grateful, and so it is. Amen. So I want to start off with a quote from my Zen calendar, my 2022 Zen calendar. I told you that story before, but here's a quote that says, from Chuang Tzu, He who knows he is a fool is not the biggest fool. And he who knows he is confused is not the worst in the worst confusion. He who knows he is a fool is not the worst fool, and he who knows he is confused, or she, is not in the worst confusion. And I'll tell you what, this spoke to me. This spoke to me. This spoke to me as a reminder. First of all, it was a relief to remember this. Do you mind closing that door, Mel? Thank you. First of all, it was a relief, because I'm like, oh, thank goodness, that this is true. But the second thing was that it was a reminder of the critical component of any spiritual life, and that is awareness. Because the only difference in this quote between being a fool and being more foolish is the awareness that you're a fool to begin with, right? Or the only difference between being in worse confusion and confusion is being aware that you're confused to begin with, right? I mean, that's the difference. It reminded me of this quote from Donald Rumsfeld. Some of you are old enough to remember him. He was the Secretary of Defense during the Iraq War, and his quote was this. He put it this way: "There are things that you don't know that you don't know, and things that you don't know, and the things you know." Right? There are things you don't know, and there are a lot of those. There are a lot of those for me. I mean, I don't even know what I don't know, right? Because it comes out of this idea of the more you know, the less you know, because there's so much to know. I'm really not talking in circles, am I? No. Maybe I am. So there's the things you don't know, and there are the things you know that you don't know. Like, I know I don't know things about science. Although many of us during the pandemic decided we were experts in a lot of ways about a lot of things, especially on Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. And we thought we knew the best approach, right? But I know I don't know that stuff. I know I don't know that stuff. And there's things you don't know. And then there's the things that you know. Like, I know when I get on the scale, that's really how much I weigh. It's the truth, I can take off just all my clothes and I'm still going to weigh close to that number, right? Close to that number. But really, the idea is the awareness is everything. The awareness is everything, because to not be aware is to stay stuck, right? And I know that at least if I'm aware that I have a chance of growing, I have a chance of changing, I have a chance at something besides being stuck exactly where I am, right? And that's the power, I think, of awareness. That's the power of awareness. To realize that I don't know everything there is to know. That I don't know everything there is to know in the universe, and I don't know everything there is to know about your life or anybody else's life. I mean, how could you know? I'm a life coach, and sometimes people come to me and they'll say, well, we'll be talking, and they'll say, why don't you just tell me? I'm like, I can't tell you. I don't know you like you know you. What I know is that you have in you to know what is the best for you. That's what I know. What it is, I don't know. See, there's some things I know, and some things I don't know, and some things I know I don't know. All in one. All in one. But to be a fool is to be unwise. To be a fool is to be unwise, is to lack forethought, is to lack a larger perspective, right? And to be confused is to be unsure, to be perplexed, to be bewildered. And I can tell you I've been there a lot of times in my life. A lot of times maybe last week, maybe later today, to be in those places. That's just to be human. That's what it is to be human, to be confused, to be perplexed, to be unwise. But again, the focus here for me, and the focus on a spiritual life especially, is to be aware of that. And I think to be aware of that and to admit that I don't always have the answer, that I'm not always right, that I don't always know the best thing, that I'm not always on top, that, my friends, is what I call humility. And I think the practice of humility is what brings us into that place of possibility. And we're not carrying around all of this burden of having to be the best and to pretend we are when we're not. Or to not be aware to begin with. that sometimes we exist in confusion and sometimes we exist in foolishness. It's the truth. It's the truth of my life, and I'm asking you to consider it's the truth of your life. Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. So this practice is humility, and I think with humility, what I've recognized, as I was writing about this week, and my shoulders would go down, I'm like, to be humble is to walk a little lighter in the world. Man, it's just a little lighter walk. It's not so heavy. It's not so rigid. It's a little lighter. And I'm like, oh, that feels good. That's the way I want to walk in the world. I don't want to be burdened all the time with all these things. I want to be aware. And I want to admit to my shortfalls or my shortcomings or when I don't know. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, is there? I don't think so. Humility is a big deal. And people say, well, I'm not going to do that because then somebody will know my weaknesses. I'm going to walk around like that. I don't want to walk that way. I don't want that burden. So people don't want to try it. I'm like, if you think it's easy, try it. Try humility instead of this. Usually we don't want to try it because we don't want to appear weak. Well, I think walking humbly is a very courageous way to walk in the world. It's a very courageous walk. And I think that lightness that we have is really, in what I've described too, is not just awareness, but it's about letting go and letting it be. And not trying to be something we aren't. I think the whole spiritual journey is about letting go and letting it be. It's about lightening up, right? And leaving things because they no longer serve us. I think Jesus' whole ministry was about that. It's about letting things go, letting it be. There's a great a story in Matthew chapter 20 about the guy who comes to Jesus and he says, hey, I've been following all the rules. I got it all straight. I haven't stolen anything. I have this family I built. I have this company I built. I'm employing all these people. I'm a good guy. But I want to make sure I get to heaven. So what else can I do? And Jesus says, well, yeah, you got to follow the rules and you're doing this. And he says, I'm already doing all that. What else is there? And you know this story, what Jesus says, well, leave all that behind and come follow me. And the guy's like, oh, man, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Because in this story, what we're led to believe that it's about the physical stuff that we have to leave behind. But really, Jesus was a spiritual teacher. He was trying to teach us spiritual ideas. So I think what he was saying in this regard was, you got to leave behind your attachment to all that stuff. You don't have to be attached. You don't have to be egotistically proud of everything you've done and proclaim it from the mountaintops. You got to leave all that behind. In other words, you have to walk humbly. You have to follow me, not worship me, but follow me. Well, how do you follow? Well, who's following anybody on Facebook or Twitter or anybody? What do? You follow because you enjoy that interaction. Maybe it makes you laugh. Maybe you're following a spiritual teacher. Maybe whatever you're following, you want to know what they're about, right? Well, follow Jesus. Follow the teaching. Follow what he has to say from a spiritual sense. Was leave that stuff behind. Right? So you walk away from that is what this is. To understand that, to be humble, to walk away from it, to let go. To be humble, we have to really get off our high horse. You know that saying, right? Get off the horse you rode, high horse you rode in on. Sometimes in my life I've needed a parachute to get off that horse. Because I've been so high and I thought that I was perfectly right about something and everybody else should just, follow me. Well, they weren't, no. Get up off the high horse. Come down to the ground. Come down to the grounded place. That's humility. Come to that place. Get off the high horse. Because here's what happens, I think, in humility. With humility, we make room for something else. I think when we are in humility, when we are humble, we make room for light. Light doesn't come, not the light that comes from outside of us, but the light that we already are. Like when we are humble, we make room for that light. And we make room for ease. And the metaphor of the light also includes being able to choose wisely. Being able to choose wisely. Being able to have some clarity. Isn't that what you want to? That's what I want in my life. I want an awareness of what's going on. I want to walk humbly so that I can clearly know what's mine to do or how I'm to be. Doesn't that make sense to you? It makes sense to me, but humility is the prerequisite for clarity. You know, humility and stillness is the prerequisite for clarity. I think those things come first. And then I'm able to access this light. And listen, nobody has to tell you about what that light is. You're not going to get it from me. You know, you don't need a leader or some spiritual person to tell you about the light. You already are the light. All right? What I'm suggesting is that you know that by walking humbly. That's all. And you can try it. Maybe it won't work for you. Well, try something else then. But no one needs to tell you the light. You don't need a bunch of teachers and a bunch of classes to tell you about the light. You are already the light. Do you believe that? I believe that about you. I believe that about every living being. That's already done and true. So it's all only about knowing that. Knowing that. And when I know that and when I use the light, I can become clear about what is mine to do and how I am to be. No one needs to tell me. Not a life coach, not a preacher teacher, not anybody else. You know that from the inside. Awareness, humility, clarity. So I have a story I want to share with you. You know, when I'm thinking about this stuff during the week and then I run across something like, well, here it is. Here's the story that illustrates this exact thing. So this is a story, this is an op-ed piece done by Jill Filipovich, and it is about Democratic U.S. Representative Jennifer Wexton of Virginia. She is just 55 years old, and she's stepping back and not running for re-election because she was recently diagnosed with a progressive supranuclear palsy, a rare and ravaging neurological disorder, and is not responding well to treatment. Okay, she's 55. Wexton has served in the truest meaning of the word. She is a quiet force in Congress. If you're not from Virginia, you might not even have heard of her because she doesn't showboat. Humility, right? Humble. But she has pressed for more services for domestic violence and abuse victims. She has pushed for more funding for childhood cancer research. In her own state, she served in the state legislature before running for Congress, where she successfully helped pass a law clearing the way for victims of revenge porn to sue and protect the rights of women to breastfeed in public. She's 55. And she's done all this. And none of us were aware about it, I'm assuming. Anybody else aware about it before now? Not aware of it. Not aware that it was going on. But the diagnosis was simply too dire and would make it too difficult for Wexton to do her job. And so this woman who has spent so much of her life fighting for others decided to spend whatever time is left with those she loves. Clarity. Clarity about who she is and what she wants to do. Humble. Awareness, of course. Humility. Clarity. Right? Wexton is, this writer says, Wexton is setting an important example. If you are no longer able to serve well, it's time to step back. She is also setting an important example in other ways too, and particularly on the question of what it means to live a good life. Humble. Like, maybe I need to step back from something. Right? If you are no longer able to fill in the blank, step back. Let someone else. If you are no longer able to, what is that blank for you? Like humility. Because sometimes we are full of self-importance. We think we are the only one that can do this. And by God, they voted me in here and I'm going to stay. They're going to have to drag me out of here. Right? Because I'm the one. I'm the one that can do this job or do this thing, whatever that is for you. She has used her power for good and has left a mark on her state and on her country, and she surely could have done many things with her time on this earth and with her position of power. She chose to do good. But now she's stepping back from this purpose-driven path to spend time with her family. That Wexton is choosing to spend time with her loved ones rather than dedicate her last days to her job or the pursuit of power or fill in the blank, says much about her character and her understanding of what's actually important. Humble, clear. All right? There is no upside to a smart, ambitious woman getting so sick, or to the loss of any human being to a devastating illness. But there are benefits to remembering that we all get only one shot at our time on earth, and rarely do we get to determine when and how we depart. Humility. If that shouldn't make us humble, I don't know what should. Death is tough enough to think about, but every day that we are lucky to be alive, we are also one step closer to our own departure. Humility. And so it's worth asking ourselves these same questions that Wexton Shirley asked of herself. How do we plan on using our limited time here for good? What does a good life look like? What does one gain by hanging on to power or status or fill in the blank? Past the point where one is able to carry out one's duties and live peacefully and at ease at the expense of our integrity. How do I practice humility? I think this is just a story of this whole message of awareness of where I am in this life. Is she heartbroken? Is her family heartbroken? I feel quite sure that they are. I would be. I know someone right now, a friend of mine whose husband was diagnosed with this inoperable brain tumor. Heartbroken. But he decided to go home and to be in hospice care so that they could be together as he leaves. Heartbroken, yes, she wrote. I said, we're heartbroken, but we made the right decision. Clarity, humility and clarity. I hope you're hearing these words. I hope they make sense to you. I hope that we wear them with ease and grace. Humility, the prerequisite for enlightenment. And what's that enlightenment? Knowing your light and knowing that all wisdom and all possibility lie exactly there in you as you. Yeah? So I want to thank this writer and this congresswoman who has demonstrated for us what that is. It's demonstrated. We hear a lot of other stuff in the media, don't we? We hear all the bad stuff that they want us to hear about. We don't hear this so often, do we? And it's happening. And it's happening in our community, and it's happening in our life as well. Awareness begets humility, begets clarity, begets walking the world as light, in the world as light, begets wisdom to know what to do, how to be, and how we want to be in the world. Yeah. So let's take that into meditation this morning and just sit with that for a little while. How will we apply it in our life to become aware of our foolishness, of our confusion, because that is the human us. It happens all the time. To be able to admit it is to live in humility. To know that we don't know everything. To know that the more we know, the less we know. All of that. But to know that the practice of humility opens up the space in us where we can have clarity, where we can access the wisdom that we already are. Let's just sit for a few moments, breathing in and breathing out. I'll end our time in meditation with this from Lala. On the way to God, the difficulties feel like being round by a millstone, like night coming at noon, like lightning through the clouds. But don't worry. What must come, comes. Face everything with love as your mind dissolves in God. Amen.